The explosion rips through the battlefield, sending shrapnel and debris flying in all directions. Ralph Davis, a seasoned human soldier, feels a sharp pain as a piece of alien technology tears into his abdomen. He collapses to the ground, blood seeping through his combat fatigues. Amidst the chaos of the human-Andorian conflict, a blue-skinned figure darts across the war-torn landscape. Luna, an Andorian combat medic renowned for her exceptional skills, races towards the fallen human soldier. Her antennae twitch nervously as she scans the area for immediate threats. Luna reaches Ralph's side, her hands already moving to assess the severity of his wound. The human's eyes flutter open, pain etched across his features. As their gazes lock, an unexpected connection forms between them, transcending the enmity of their warring species. The medic's deft fingers work quickly, applying pressure to stem the blood flow. Suddenly, she pauses, her eyes widening in disbelief. The wound beneath her hands is closing at an astonishing rate, far faster than any Andorian could heal. Luna's mind races, trying to comprehend this unexpected phenomenon. Ralph grimaces, attempting to sit up despite the pain. He opens his mouth to speak, but a shout from nearby cuts him off. A group of Andorian soldiers has spotted them, weapons raised as they move to capture the injured human. Luna freezes, caught between her duty to her people and the inexplicable urge to protect this intriguing human. In a split-second decision, she grabs Ralph's arm and hauls him to his feet. "Run!" she hisses, supporting his weight as they flee from the approaching Andorian squad. They weave through the battlefield, dodging weapons fire from both sides. The once pristine alien landscape is now scarred by the ongoing war, craters and wreckage dotting the terrain. Ralph and Luna duck into an abandoned structure, its walls pockmarked with blast damage. As they catch their breath, Ralph turns to Luna. "Why did you help me?" he asks, his voice a mix of gratitude and suspicion. Luna's antennae twitch again, her alien features betraying her conflicted emotions. I'm not sure," she admits. "But your healing ability, how is that possible?" Ralph hesitates, then decides to trust the Andorian who saved his life. "Experimental nanotechnology," he explains in a low voice. "It's a closely guarded secret of the human military." Luna's eyes widen as she processes this information. "An unexpected weapon indeed," she murmurs, realizing the potential impact this technology could have on the war's outcome. As Luna continues to treat Ralph's wounds, a tentative bond forms between them. Outside, the sounds of battle rage on, a stark reminder of the conflict that has engulfed their species for years. The war, sparked by a dispute over a resource-rich border planet, has escalated into a fight for survival. Their moment of respite is interrupted by the crackle of nearby communications. Both human and Andorian voices filter through, discussing plans for major offensives. Ralph and Luna exchange worried glances, understanding the catastrophic losses such actions would bring to both sides. In the dim light of their makeshift shelter, human and Andorian regard each other with newfound perspective. Their unexpected alliance, born from chaos and compassion, might be the key to preventing further bloodshed. But first, they must survive the night and navigate the complex web of loyalties that bind them to their respective sides in this interstellar conflict. As the battle rages on outside, Ralph and Luna begin to plan their next move, acutely aware that the fate of both their species may rest in their hands. As the first light of dawn filtered through the cracks in their makeshift shelter, Ralph and Luna exchanged a knowing glance. They couldn't stay here much longer. The sounds of battle had grown closer throughout the night. "We need to move," Ralph whispered, wincing slightly as he stood. Luna nodded, her antennae twitching as she scanned their surroundings. "There's an abandoned research facility about 2 kilometers northeast," she said, recalling the layout of the area from her pre-war briefings. "It might provide better cover and supplies." They emerged cautiously from their hiding place, Ralph marveling at how quickly his body had healed. The wound that should have been fatal was now little more than a dull ache. Luna watched him with a mixture of fascination and envy, her scientific curiosity piqued by the human's remarkable recovery. As they made their way across the war-torn landscape, Ralph and Luna remained vigilant, ducking behind debris and craters to avoid detection. The once beautiful alien world was now a patchwork of destruction, a stark reminder of the conflict that had brought them together. Look, Ralph said, pointing to a structure looming in the distance. The abandoned research facility stood as a silent sentinel, its weathered exterior bearing the scars of the war's early days. Upon reaching the facility, they found the main entrance sealed. Luna's deft fingers quickly bypassed the security system, and they slipped inside, grateful for the respite from the exposed battlefield. The interior was a maze of corridors and laboratories, most in various states of disarray. As they searched for supplies, Ralph couldn't help but notice the remnants of cooperation between their species. Human and Andorian script adorned the walls, and equipment clearly designed for both anatomies lay scattered about. This must have been a joint research center, Luna mused, her voice tinged with regret for what had been lost. Their exploration led them to a hidden laboratory, its entrance concealed behind a false wall. Inside, they discovered prototype communication devices, unlike anything they had seen before. These look like they're designed to interface with both human and Andorian neural patterns, Ralph said, examining one of the devices closely. Luna's eyes widened. If we could get these working, it might help bridge the gap between our species, maybe even end this war. As they continued to explore the facility, Ralph became acutely aware of Luna's presence. In the confined spaces, their bodies occasionally brushed against each other, sending an unexpected thrill through him. He caught Luna's gaze, noticing a similar tension in her alien features. Their moment of connection was shattered by the sound of approaching footsteps. Ralph and Luna quickly took defensive positions, weapons at the ready. "Hold your fire," a familiar voice called out. Captain Marcus Steele, Ralph's commanding officer, emerged from around the corner, flanked by a small group of human soldiers. The soldiers raised their weapons at the sight of Luna, but Steele quickly ordered them to stand down. "At ease, men. Corporal Davis, report. Who's your, friend?" Ralph explained the situation, watching as Steele's expression shifted from confusion to intrigue. When he finished, Steele nodded slowly. "This might be the opportunity we've been waiting for," Steele said, his voice low. "I've been working on a peace initiative, but we needed a catalyst. Your alliance with Luna could be exactly what we need." Before they could discuss further, alarms blared throughout the facility. Ancient security systems, triggered by their presence, sealed off exits and cut communications. "We're trapped," Luna said, her antennae twitching nervously. As if to compound their problems, new voices echoed through the corridors. Andorian voices. "Luna, are you here?" The voice belonged to Lieutenant Czar, a member of Luna's unit. Ralph, Luna, and the human soldiers exchanged glances, realizing the precariousness of their situation. They were now caught between two opposing forces, with no easy way out. "We need to work together if we're going to survive this," Steele said, addressing both his men and Luna. "And maybe, just maybe, we can turn this into something more." As the sounds of the Andorian search party grew closer, Ralph and Luna found themselves at the center of an impromptu alliance. The prototype communication devices lay on a nearby table, offering a potential solution and a risk. "If we use those, we might be able to communicate better with the Andorians," Luna suggested. "But it could also expose our location to both sides." Ralph nodded, understanding the weight of their decision. "Whatever we do, we need to do it fast." With time running out and tensions rising, the unlikely group began to formulate a plan. As human and Andorian worked side by side, Ralph and Luna shared a moment of unspoken understanding. Their journey had taken an unexpected turn, but the path ahead, while dangerous, held the promise of something greater than either of them could have imagined. As the group debated their next move, a low rumble reverberated through the facility. The lights flickered, plunging them into momentary darkness before emergency systems kicked in, bathing the corridors in an eerie red glow. "What was that?" Ralph asked, his hand instinctively reaching for Luna's arm. Captain Steele's eyes narrowed. "The facility's security systems. They must have been triggered by our presence." A series of metallic clanks echoed through the halls as blast doors slammed shut, sealing off exits and trapping them inside. The prototype communication devices on the nearby table sparked to life, emitting a high-pitched whine before falling silent. "We're cut off," Luna said, her antenna twitching nervously. "No way in or out." The human soldiers exchanged uneasy glances, their hands tightening on their weapons. Ralph could sense the rising tension, a powder keg ready to ignite at the slightest spark. "Everyone, stay calm," Captain Steele ordered, his voice steady despite the dire situation. "We need to find a way to override these security protocols." As if in response to Steele's words, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed from a nearby corridor. Luna's eyes widened in recognition. "That's Lieutenant Czar," she whispered. "My unit must have tracked me here." Ralph felt a surge of conflicting emotions, relief at the potential rescue, tempered by the fear of what might happen when the two groups met. He looked at Luna, seeing his own uncertainty mirrored in her alien features. "We need to move," Steele said, gesturing for the group to follow him. "There might be a control room where we can disable these security measures." As they made their way deeper into the facility, Ralph couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The abandoned research center seemed to come alive around them, hidden mechanisms whirring to life after years of dormancy. They turned a corner and found themselves in a vast chamber, filled with sleek, humanoid shapes. Ralph's breath caught in his throat as he realized what they were looking at. "Exosuits," Luna breathed, her scientific curiosity overriding her caution. She approached one of the suits, running her hand over its smooth surface. "These were part of a joint research project. I remember hearing about it before the war." Ralph stepped closer, examining a suit clearly designed for human physiology. "They look like they're meant to enhance physical capabilities," he observed. Captain Steele frowned. "We don't have time for this. We need to find a way out before—" His words were cut off by the sound of an explosion in the distance. The Andorian search party was getting closer. "Wait," Ralph said, an idea forming. "These suits might give us an advantage. If Luna and I can use them, we might be able to find a way to end this standoff peacefully." Steele hesitated, weighing the risks. Finally, he nodded. "Do it, but be careful. We don't know what those things are capable of." Ralph and Luna approached the exosuits designed for their respective species. As they stepped into the sleek armor, the suits came to life, form-fitting to their bodies with a series of clicks and whirs. Ralph gasped as the neural interface activated, flooding his senses with information. He could feel the suit's power thrumming through him, enhancing his strength and speed. But more than that, he sensed Luna's presence, a warm glow at the edge of his consciousness. "Can you feel that?" Luna asked, her voice filled with wonder. "It's like we're connected." Ralph nodded, unable to find words to describe the sensation. The suits had created a bond between them, transcending the physical barriers of their different species. As they adjusted to their new capabilities, the sound of weapons fire erupted from the corridor outside. Lieutenant Czar's team had engaged the human soldiers left to guard the entrance. "We need to stop this before it escalates," Ralph said, his enhanced senses picking up the chaos of the battle. Luna nodded, her grit matching his own. "Let's go. We can use these suits to reach the control center and override the lockdown." Captain Steele agreed to accompany them, recognizing the potential of their enhanced abilities. As they made their way through the facility's winding corridors, Ralph marveled at his newfound strength and agility. Obstacles that would have been challenging before now seemed trivial. But it was the connection with Luna that truly amazed him. Through the neural interface, he could sense her emotions, her commitment, and something else, a growing attraction that mirrored his own feelings. As they navigated the deteriorating interior of the facility, they encountered various automated defenses, laser grids, robotic sentries, and the shifting gravitational fields. Each challenge forced them to work together, relying on their enhanced abilities and the instinctive understanding fostered by their neural link. During a particularly harrowing encounter with a malfunctioning security drone, Ralph and Luna found themselves pressed close together, their exosuit-clad bodies fitting perfectly against each other. The physical proximity, combined with the neural interface, sent a jolt of electricity through Ralph's system. He caught Luna's gaze, seeing his own desire reflected in her alien eyes. For a moment, the chaos around them faded away, leaving only the intense connection between them. Captain Steele's voice broke the spell. "We're approaching the control center. Be ready for anything." As they reached the sealed doors of the control room, a new challenge presented itself. The facility's dormant AI system, awakened by their presence, began to reactivate experimental systems throughout the complex. Holographic interfaces flickered to life around them, displaying data in a dizzying array of human and Andorian script. The AI's voice, a blend of both species' languages, echoed through the halls. Intruders detected, initiating containment protocols. Ralph and Luna exchanged glances, their exosuits humming with energy as they prepared to face this new threat. The control center lay just beyond, holding the key to ending the conflict and bridging the gap between their species. As they braced themselves for the AI's challenge, Ralph felt Luna's persistence through their neural link. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. Human and Andorian united in a way neither could have imagined when the day began. The AI's voice crackled through the facility's speakers, its tone a blend of human and Andorian inflections. Warning, environmental systems compromised, initiating emergency protocols. A low hiss filled the air, and Ralph's enhanced senses picked up a faint sweet scent. He turned to Luna, her antennae twitching in response to the change. "Something's wrong," she said, her voice tight with concern. Captain Steele's eyes widened as he looked down the corridor. A dense, pale mist was creeping along the floor, advancing rapidly towards them. "Move!" Steele shouted, urging them towards the higher levels. As they ascended, Ralph felt the temperature rising, the air becoming thick and humid. Sweat beaded on his forehead inside the exosuit, and he could see moisture condensing on Luna's blue skin. "The atmospheric regulators must have malfunctioned," Luna explained between breaths. "This mist, it wasn't meant to be released like this." They reached a higher level, but the mist pursued them relentlessly. Ralph's exosuit beeped, analyzing the air composition. "It's not immediately toxic," he reported, "but we don't know the long-term effects." Suddenly, the sound of weapons fire erupted from below. Captain Steele activated his comlink, his face grim. "Report!" A crackle of static, then a breathless voice. "Sir, the Andorians have breached our defenses. We're engaged in a standoff, but something's happening." As if on cue, the prototype communication devices they'd discovered earlier sparked to life. A cacophony of voices, both human and Andorian, filled the air. To Ralph's astonishment, he could understand both. "What's going on?" an Andorian voice demanded. "We don't know," a human soldier responded. "But we can understand you?" The mist swirled around their feet, growing denser. Ralph felt a sudden wave of heat wash over him, his skin tingling beneath the exosuit. He glanced at Luna and froze. Her eyes were locked on him, pupils dilated, breath coming in short gasps. "Ralph," she whispered, her voice husky, "I feel, strange." Captain Steele cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable. "The mist must be affecting our physiology. We need to find that control room, fast." As they navigated the facility's winding corridors, Ralph became acutely aware of Luna's presence. Every accidental brush of their exosuits sent sparks of pleasure through his body. He could sense her emotions through their neural link, a mix of confusion, excitement, and growing desire. They encountered more obstacles, malfunctioning security drones, shifting gravity fields, but their enhanced abilities allowed them to overcome each challenge. Yet with each passing moment, the mist's effects grew stronger. Ralph and Luna found themselves working in perfect synchronization, their bodies moving together as if choreographed. During a particularly challenging section, Luna stumbled, and Ralph caught her. The contact sent a jolt of electricity through them both. I've never felt like this before," Luna murmured, her alien features flushed. Ralph swallowed hard, fighting the urge to pull her closer. "Me neither. But we have to focus." Captain Steele watched their interaction with a mixture of concern and intrigue. Whatever's happening between you two, it could be the key to ending this conflict. They finally reached the control center, only to find the doors sealed shut. The AI's voice echoed around them. "Manual override disabled. Direct interface required." Luna examined the control panel. "We need to connect our exosuits to the AI. It's the only way to regain control." Ralph hesitated. "Is it safe?" Luna's eyes met his, a spark of willpower cutting through the haze of desire. We don't have a choice. Together? He nodded, reaching for her hand. As their exosuits connected to the AI, Ralph felt his consciousness expanding. Luna's presence filled his mind, their thoughts and emotions intertwining. The intimacy was overwhelming, far beyond anything physical. Images flashed through their shared consciousness, schematics of the facility, data on human Andorian physiology, and something else, hidden files buried deep in the AI's memory banks. The facility? Luna gasped. It wasn't just for research. It was meant to bring our species together. Ralph saw it too. Plans for coexistence, even integration. In darker images, sabotage, deliberate attempts to derail the project and ignite conflict. As they delved deeper into the AI's systems, the choice before them became clear. They could shut down the mist, end its effects, and potentially lose this chance for understanding. Or they could find a way to stabilize it, to use this shared experience as a foundation for peace. Ralph felt Luna's question in his mind, her thoughts echoing his own uncertainty. The fate of two species hung in the balance, intertwined with their own growing bond. Their hands remained clasped, exosuits humming with power, as they prepared to make a decision that would alter the course of human-Andorian relations forever. Forever. With a shared nod, Ralph and Luna made their choice. They would stabilize the mist and use this unprecedented opportunity to forge a new path for both species. As their exosuits interfaced with the AI, Ralph felt a surge of energy course through his body. His consciousness expanded, merging with Luna's in a way that transcended physical boundaries. Together, they dove into the facility's systems, unraveling complex algorithms and navigating intricate subroutines. "We're in!" Luna's voice echoed in Ralph's mind, a mix of excitement and grit. Ralph focused, channeling their combined will through the neural interface. Adjusting mist composition now. With a series of mental commands, they fine-tuned the atmospheric regulators. The dense fog around them shifted, its color changing from pale white to a soft, iridescent blue. Ralph felt the intense physical desires subside, replaced by a deep sense of empathy and understanding. As they disengaged from the AI, Ralph realized with a start that he could still sense Luna's presence in his mind. Their neural link persisted, a bridge between human and Andorian consciousness. "Can you still feel me?" Luna asked, her antennae twitching with curiosity. Ralph nodded, marveling at the connection. "It's like you're a part of me now." Captain Steele cleared his throat, breaking the moment. "What's our status?" "We've stabilized the mist," Luna explained. "It should enhance empathy and understanding without compromising judgment." Steele's eyes widened as he processed the implications. "Then it's time we put it to the test. We need to bring both sides together." Using their newfound control over the facility's systems, Ralph and Luna guided Captain Steele and the others to the main conference room. As they walked, Ralph noticed the subtle changes in the atmosphere. The air felt charged with possibility, the lingering mist creating a shared sense of openness among the group. They entered the conference room to find Lieutenant Czar and his Andorian team already waiting. The tension in the air was palpable, years of conflict and mistrust hanging between the two groups. But as the stabilized mist worked its subtle magic, Ralph saw the rigid postures begin to relax. "Welcome," Captain Steele said, his voice carrying a warmth that surprised even him. "We have much to discuss." As the humans and Andorians took their seats, Ralph and Luna shared their discovery about the facility's true purpose. Gasps and murmurs filled the room as the revelation sank in. "An integration project?" Lieutenant Czar's antennae quivered with shock. But why was this kept secret? Through their neural link, Ralph sensed Luna's tenacity. She stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "We found evidence of sabotage. Someone wanted to derail this project and ignite conflict between our species." The room erupted in heated discussions, the experimental communication devices allowing for seamless translation between human and Andorian languages. As the talks progressed, Ralph noticed a change in the atmosphere. The initial hostility gave way to curiosity, then to a cautious sense of camaraderie. Suddenly, the AI's voice cut through the chatter. "Incoming transmission detected. Source, human and Andorian high commands. The room fell silent as the messages played out. Both sides had noticed the prolonged absence of their teams and were mobilizing large-scale search and rescue operations. The gravity of the situation hit Ralph like a physical blow. If they didn't act quickly, all their progress could be undone in an instant. "We need to broadcast the truth," Luna said, her thoughts aligning perfectly with Ralph's. "Show them what we've discovered, what we've experienced here." Captain Steele nodded, his expression grim. "It's risky, but it might be our only chance to prevent further bloodshed." As they began preparations for the broadcast, Ralph found himself working in close proximity to Luna. Their exosuits, responsive to their heightened emotional states, seemed to hum with energy. Every accidental touch sent sparks of pleasure through their neural link, intensifying their growing attraction. During a quiet moment as they calibrated the communication array, Luna's hand brushed against Ralph's. The contact sent a jolt of electricity through them both, their shared sensations amplified by their mental connection. "Ralph," Luna whispered, her alien eyes filled with a very human longing. "What's happening between us?" He leaned in, drawn by an irresistible force. "I don't know, but I don't want it to stop." Their lips met in a kiss that transcended species, a perfect union of mind and body. For a moment, the universe narrowed to just the two of them, their shared consciousness awash in a sea of sensation and emotion. The moment was broken by a sudden alarm. The facility's defense systems had activated, interpreting the approaching search and rescue teams as a threat. Ralph and Luna sprang into action, their movements perfectly synchronized as they raced to override the protocols. As they worked, they became aware of a new complication. The mist was beginning to dissipate in certain areas of the facility, causing some individuals to experience a partial return to their previous states of mind. Tensions began to rise as old prejudices resurfaced. "We need to reinforce the bonds we've formed," Luna said, her mind already formulating a plan. Ralph nodded, understanding her intentions without the need for words. Together they began organizing joint tasks and team-building exercises, encouraging continued cooperation between humans and Andorians as the mist's effects fluctuated. Time was running out. The defense systems powered up, their ominous hum filling the air. Outside, the search and rescue teams drew ever closer. Ralph and Luna stood at the heart of it all, their hands intertwined, exosuits glowing with power. They shared a look, their neural link thrumming with shared purpose and commitment. The fate of two species hung in the balance, and they were the key to tipping the scales towards peace. "Ready?" Ralph asked, though he already knew the answer. Luna's grip tightened on his hand. "Always." Together they turned to face the challenges ahead, their bond a beacon of hope in the uncertain future that lay before them. As Ralph and Luna turned to face the challenges ahead, the facility's defense systems roared to life. Alarms blared, and red warning lights bathed the control room in an eerie glow. "The defenses!" Captain Steele shouted over the cacophony. "We need to shut them down before they engage the search parties." Ralph and Luna shared a determined look, their neural link humming with shared purpose. Without a word, they moved in perfect sync towards the main control terminal. "We can override the AI's defensive protocols," Luna said, her fingers flying over the holographic interface. "But we'll need to go deeper into the system." Ralph nodded, understanding her intention. "Full synchronization?" "It's our only chance," Luna confirmed. They placed their hands on the terminal's biometric scanners, initiating a deep synchronization process. Ralph gasped as he felt his consciousness expand, merging with Luna's in a way that transcended their previous connection. The world around them faded, replaced by a swirling vortex of data and code. As their minds intertwined, Ralph became acutely aware of Luna's body pressed against his. Their exosuits, responding to the neural stimulation, began to pulse with energy. Every point of contact sent waves of pleasure cascading through their shared consciousness. In the physical world, Captain Steele watched with a mixture of awe and concern as Ralph and Luna's exosuits began to glow, their bodies moving in perfect harmony as they interfaced with the facility's systems. "Lieutenant Czar," Steele called out, tearing his eyes away from the spectacle. "We need to secure the entrance. If those search parties breach the facility before we're ready, this could all fall apart. The Andorian officer nodded, his antennae twitching with drive. Agreed. I'll gather a team of my people. I'll do the same, Steele replied. We'll make it a joint operation. As the two leaders hurried off to organize their forces, Ralph and Luna delved deeper into the AI systems. They moved through firewalls and security protocols as if they were made of mist, their combined abilities allowing them to navigate the complex digital landscape with ease. Suddenly, they encountered a heavily encrypted section of the database. Luna's scientific curiosity piqued, and Ralph felt her excitement through their link. This must be it, she thought, the words appearing in Ralph's mind as clearly as if she had spoken them aloud. The core data on the Human Andorian Integration Project. As they worked to decrypt the files, Ralph became aware of a subtle change in the atmosphere. The mist's effects seemed to be fluctuating, causing waves of clarity and renewed attraction to wash over the facility's occupants. In a corridor near the main entrance, a human soldier named Sarah found herself face-to-face with an Andorian engineer called Theron. One moment, they were working together to reinforce a bulkhead, and the next, Sarah found herself lost in Theron's alien yet captivating eyes. I've never noticed how beautiful your antennae are, Sarah murmured, her hand reaching out almost of its own accord. Theron's breath caught in his throat as Sarah's fingers gently caressed his sensitive antenna. And I've never truly appreciated the complexity of human hands, he replied, his voice husky with desire. Similar scenes played out across the facility as humans and Andorians, their inhibitions lowered by the mist and their shared experiences, found themselves drawn to each other in ways they never expected. Back in the control room, Ralph and Luna made a startling discovery. Hidden within the encrypted files was a fail-safe program designed to purge all data related to the integration project. We can't let this information be lost, Luna's thoughts raced through their shared consciousness. It could be the key to ending the war. Ralph agreed, and together they initiated a data transfer to their exosuits. As the vital research began to flow into their systems, Ralph felt a new level of connection forming between them. Their bodies, already intimately pressed together, began to respond to the intense neural stimulation. Luna's breath came in short gasps, her alien features flushed with a mix of exertion and arousal. Ralph found himself captivated by the play of light across her iridescent skin, the subtle movements of her antennae expressing emotions he was only beginning to understand. As the data transfer progressed, their exosuits began to change. Nanomachines activated, responding to their deepening mental and physical connection. Ralph watched in amazement as his suit began to merge with Luna's, their bodies joining in a physical representation of their mental synchronization. "Ralph!" Luna gasped, her eyes wide with wonder and a hint of fear. "What's happening to us?" Before he could respond, a new alarm blared through the facility. The AI's voice, cold and implacable, announced, "Warning, facility-wide lockdown initiated. All sections will be sealed in 60 seconds. Ralph and Luna shared a moment of panic through their link. They had to act fast to prevent the occupants from being trapped and potentially turning on each other as the mist's effects continued to fluctuate. With a shared thought, they began to selectively deactivate the facility's defenses. It was a delicate balance. They needed to create an opening for communication while maintaining enough systems online to prevent a full-scale invasion by the search and rescue teams. As they worked, their hybrid form continued to evolve. Human and Andorian features blended, creating something entirely new, a living symbol of the integration their two species could achieve. Outside the facility, the leaders of the search and rescue teams grew restless. Unaware of the delicate peace process occurring within, they prepared to breach the complex by force. Weapons were charged, and breach points were identified. Inside, Captain Steele and Lieutenant Czar raced against time to reach the communications center. They knew they had only one chance to prevent a catastrophic misunderstanding. As Ralph and Luna's efforts finally created a small opening in the facility's defenses, Steele and Czar burst into the communication room. They activated the experimental translation devices, ready to bridge the gap between their species and reveal the truth about the facility and the progress made inside. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance as the first words of their message crackled through the airwaves. Ralph and Luna now merged into a single being that represented the ultimate potential of human-Andorian cooperation, waited with anxious anticipation to see if their efforts would lead to a new era of peace or a return to devastating conflict. War. In that moment, as the message began to transmit, Ralph and Luna's merged form pulsed with energy. Their hybrid body, a testament to the potential of human-Andorian unity, seized control of the facility systems with unprecedented ease. Through their shared consciousness, they deftly balanced the complex web of defenses and communication channels. "We've established a stable link," Luna's voice echoed in their merged mind, "but we need to maintain just enough defensive systems to prevent a full-scale invasion." Ralph's thoughts flowed seamlessly with hers. "Agreed. We'll give them a chance to listen, but we can't leave ourselves completely vulnerable." As they worked, Captain Steele and Lieutenant Czar's voices carried through the facility's speakers, explaining the situation to their respective commanders. The initial responses were a cacophony of disbelief and demands for explanations. "This is Admiral Chen of the Human Alliance," a stern voice crackled through the comm system. "Captain Steele, I need visual confirmation of your status and a full report on what's happening in there." Almost simultaneously, a deep, resonant voice joined the channel. "High Commander Thalic of the Andorian Imperium. Lieutenant Czar, explain yourself immediately." Ralph and Luna shared a look, their hybrid features reflecting a mix of tenacity and apprehension. "It's time," they said in unison, their merged voice a harmonic blend of human and Andorian tones. They stepped into view of the facility's cameras, their hybrid form a stunning visual representation of what they'd been trying to explain. Gasps and exclamations echoed through the communication channels as the image was broadcast to both human and Andorian forces. "By the eternal ice," High Commander Thalic breathed. Admiral Chen's voice was tight with shock. What are we looking at?" Captain Steele cleared his throat. "Admirals, what you're seeing is the result of the integration project. This is Lieutenant Luna and Specialist Ralph, merged into a single being through a combination of the facility's unique environment and advanced technology." As the implications of this revelation rippled through the ranks of both species, Ralph and Luna became aware of subtle changes throughout the facility. The mist that had facilitated their initial cooperation was dissipating, its effects wearing off. In a nearby corridor, Sarah blinked rapidly, her hand still resting on Theron's antenna. What was I saying?" she muttered, confusion evident in her voice. Theron stepped back, his own mind clearing. "We were reinforcing the bulkhead," he said, gesturing to their unfinished work. Despite the fading effects of the mist, neither made a move to retrieve their weapons. The bonds formed during their shared experience, while altered, remained intact. Similar scenes played out across the facility as humans and Andorians found themselves in various states of cooperation and intimacy. The initial shock of their returning faculties was tempered by the lingering sense of connection they'd forged. Back in the control room, Ralph and Luna's hybrid form began to change. New abilities manifested as their body continued to adapt, combining the best aspects of both species. Their skin took on a subtle iridescence, while their muscles densified, granting them enhanced strength. Their senses sharpened, combining the acute hearing of the Andorians with the superior visual acuity of humans. "Fascinating," Luna's thoughts rippled through their shared consciousness. "Our physiologies are integrating at a cellular level." Ralph's amazement mirrored hers. "We're becoming something entirely new." Their attention was drawn back to the ongoing negotiations as Captain Steele and Lieutenant Czar began outlining a comprehensive peace proposal. They incorporated data from the newly unlocked sections of the facility, painting a picture of the potential benefits of human-Andorian cooperation. "The technology we've discovered here could revolutionize both our societies," Czar explained, his antennae twitching with excitement. "Joint scientific ventures could accelerate our progress by decades, if not centuries." Steele nodded in agreement. "And the disputed territories? We propose a system of shared governance, drawing on the strengths of both our species." As they spoke, Ralph and Luna worked tirelessly to secure the newly accessible areas of the facility. They coordinated teams of humans and Andorians, their merged form serving as a living example of cooperation. In one of the unlocked laboratories, a human scientist named Dr. Emily Chen found herself working alongside an Andorian researcher, Rix. They hunched over a piece of advanced medical technology, their earlier animosity forgotten in the face of scientific discovery. If we can adapt this for mass production, Dr. Chen mused, her eyes alight with possibilities, we could eradicate dozens of diseases that plague both our species. Rix nodded, his antennae curling in agreement. And the applications for space travel are astounding. This could be the key to long-term colonization efforts. Outside the facility, the debate among the search and rescue team leaders grew heated. Advocates for immediate action clashed with those urging caution, their indecision buying precious time for those inside. We can't just stand by while our people are held captive, a human colonel argued, his face flushed with anger. An Andorian commander countered, her antennae rigid with intensity. And risk destroying a chance at peace? We need more information before we act. As the negotiations continued, Ralph and Luna found themselves the center of intense scientific curiosity. Requests for medical examinations and genetic samples flooded in from both sides, adding another layer of complexity to the already delicate situation. We're not lab specimens. Ralph's thoughts carried a tinge of unease. Luna's mental touch was soothing. No, but our condition could be the key to understanding so much more about both our species. We need to consider the potential benefits. Their internal dialogue was interrupted by a surge of activity in the communication channels. News of the events inside the facility had begun to spread to the wider populations of both species. Public opinion was shifting rapidly, with calls for peace gaining traction on both human and Andorian worlds. However, not everyone welcomed this change. In the shadows, those who profited from the ongoing conflict began to mobilize. They saw the potential peace as a threat to their power and influence, and they were not about to relinquish their positions without a fight. As Ralph and Luna's hybrid form stood at the heart of the facility, they knew that the next few hours would be crucial. The path to peace was fraught with challenges, but for the first time in generations, it seemed within reach. The question remained, would the leaders of both species grasp this opportunity, or would the forces of conflict plunge them back into the abyss of war? War. The tense silence that followed was shattered by a flurry of activity as news of the merged form of Ralph and Luna spread like wildfire through both human and Andorian channels. Within hours, the facility became the epicenter of a diplomatic storm. High-ranking officials from both governments arrived at the outskirts, their shuttles descending through the planet's atmosphere in a display of nearly unleashed urgency. Admiral Chen's voice crackled through the comm system once more. Captain Steele, we're sending in a delegation. Prepare for their arrival. High Commander Thalek's deep tones followed suit. As are we, Lieutenant Czar, ensure all safety protocols are in place. Steele and Czar exchanged glances, the weight of the situation evident in their expressions. They knew the delicate nature of what was unfolding and quickly agreed to allow a small delegation from each side to enter under strict conditions. As preparations were made, Ralph and Luna's merged form experienced another wave of transformation. Their skin rippled, new neural pathways forming beneath the surface. Suddenly they gasped, their enhanced senses overwhelmed by the influx of information. The pain! Luna's thoughts echoed through their shared consciousness. Ralph's mental voice strained with effort. We need to focus. The delegates are coming. Their hybrid body pulsed with energy, muscles densifying further as their strength increased exponentially. The merge being stumbled, catching themselves against a nearby console as a wave of disorientation washed over them. Dr. Elena Reeves, a human xenobiologist with a reputation for groundbreaking research, was among the first to enter the facility. Her eyes widened as she took in the sight of the hybrid being. Extraordinary, she breathed, immediately pulling out a handheld scanner. Beside her, Dr. Krell, an Andorian expert in comparative anatomy, watched with equal fascination. His antennae twitched with excitement as he observed the seamless blending of human and Andorian features. We need to begin non-invasive tests immediately, Dr. Krell stated, his voice filled with almost unchecked enthusiasm. As the scientists set up their equipment, Captain Steele received an urgent communication. His face paled as he listened, then turned to Lieutenant Czar. We have a problem. Intelligence reports indicate potential sabotage attempts from both sides. Tsar's antenna stiffened. Extremists? Steele nodded grimly. Human operatives trying to rescue Ralph and Andorian separatists planning assassinations. We need to bolster security without disrupting the negotiations. As they moved to implement enhanced security measures, the facility's AI chimed in. Alert! New section unlocked. Advanced technology detected in hidden hangar. The announcement sent a ripple of excitement through the gathered officials. A team was quickly assembled to investigate, led by a mix of human and Andorian engineers. Meanwhile, Ralph and Luna's merged form struggled with another intense wave of pain. Dr. Reeves noticed their discomfort and approached cautiously. Are you all right? We can pause the examinations if needed. The hybrid beings shook their head, their voice a harmonious blend of Ralph and Luna's tones. No, we must continue. The knowledge gained here could be crucial for both our species. As the test progressed, Dr. Reeves and Dr. Krell exchanged worried glances. The data streaming across their screens painted a concerning picture. The cellular structure is becoming unstable, Dr. Krell murmured, his antennae drooping slightly. Dr. Reeves nodded, her brow furrowed. If this continues, we could lose them both. Their concerns were interrupted by a commotion from the newly discovered hangar. The engineering team burst into the room, their faces a mix of awe and urgency. We've found something, one of the human engineers gasped. A prototype FTL drive. It's beyond anything we've ever seen. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembled diplomats. The implications of such technology were staggering, potentially shifting the balance of power in the galaxy. As discussions erupted among the officials, Ralph and Luna's merged form suddenly stiffened. Their eyes glowed with an otherworldly light as they accessed the facility's advanced systems through their neural link. Incoming threat detected, they announced, their voice resonating with artificial overtones. Rogue human military faction approaching. Intent, hostile. Captain Steele's hand flew to his communicator. All personnel, battle stations, this is not a drill. The hybrid being's fingers danced across the nearest console, effortlessly coordinating a complex series of countermeasures. Defensive shields hummed to life as weapon systems came online, all controlled with a fluidity that left the observers in awe. As the facility's defenses engaged the incoming threat, Dr. Reeves's scanner beeped urgently. She looked up, her face pale. The cellular degradation is accelerating. We're running out of time. The merged form of Ralph and Luna swayed, their features contorting with pain, even as they continued to direct the facility's defenses. The assembled diplomats watched in stunned silence, the display of power and vulnerability forcing them to confront the true stakes of the situation unfolding before them. In that moment, as alarms blared and the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, the choice became clear. Risk everything for a chance at lasting peace, or retreat into the familiar comfort of conflict. The next few minutes would determine not only the fate of Ralph and Luna, but potentially the future of human-Andorian relations for generations to come. Come. The facility shuddered violently, interrupting the tense standoff. Alarms blared as the rogue human military faction's attack intensified, their weapons fire pummeling the ancient structure's shield. Ralph Luna's merged form staggered, their control over the facility's defenses wavering. Dr. Reeves rushed to their side, scanner in hand. The cellular degradation is accelerating at an alarming rate, she announced, her voice tight with concern. We're losing them. Captain Steele and Lieutenant Tsar exchanged a quick glance, years of military training allowing them to communicate volumes in an instant. We need to get out of here, Steele said, his teeth clenched. Now! Tsar's antenna twitched in agreement. The prototype FTL drive, it's our only option. Without hesitation, Steele barked out orders. All personnel, prepare for emergency relocation. Dr. Reeves, Dr. Krell, stabilize Ralph Luna as best you can. We're going to need them. The facility erupted into controlled chaos as humans and Andorians alike scrambled to secure equipment and prepare for the unprecedented maneuver. In the medical bay, Dr. Reeves and Dr. Krell worked feverishly, their earlier rivalry forgotten in the face of crisis. We need to halt the cellular breakdown, Dr. Krell said, his fingers flying over a console. A series of targeted energy pulses might buy us some time. Dr. Reeves nodded, already calibrating the necessary equipment. It's not a permanent solution, but it should give us a few hours. As they initiated the procedure, Ralph Luna's form convulsed, their skin rippling with waves of energy. The hybrid being's eyes snapped open, glowing with an otherworldly light. Initiating FTL drive, they announced, their voice a harmonious blend of human and Andorian tones. The facility's AI responded instantly, ancient systems humming to life. The structure groaned, metal and stone protesting as it broke free from its planetary moorings. Outside, the attacking forces reeled in shock as their target began to rise, defying gravity and centuries of immobility. Inside, diplomats and scientists clutched at whatever they could find as the facility ascended. Captain Steele gripped a console, his fingers tightening. Shields holding? Ralph Luna nodded, their merge form trembling with effort. Shields at maximum capacity, preparing for jump. As they cleared the atmosphere, the rogue faction redirected their attack, energy weapons lashing out at the ascending structure. The blast dissipated harmlessly against the now fully powered shields, their fury impotent in the face of the facility's ancient defenses. FTL drive engaged, Ralph Luna announced. A blinding light enveloped the facility, and for a moment, reality itself seemed to bend. Then, with a thunderous crack, they vanished, leaving behind a stunned attacking force and a vacuum of unanswered questions. The transition was violent. Every occupant of the facility felt as if they were being stretched and compressed simultaneously. Then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. Through the facility's viewports, an unfamiliar star system greeted them. "Status report," Steele called out, fighting off a wave of disorientation. "We've sustained damage to multiple systems," Czar responded, checking a nearby console. "Power fluctuations across the board. Life support is holding, but we need to begin repairs immediately." As if to emphasize his point, the lights flickered ominously. Steele nodded, quickly assessing the situation. "Organize repair teams. Mix human and Andorian personnel. We're all in this together now." In the medical bay, Dr. Reeves and Dr. Krell hovered over Ralph Luna's unconscious form. The strain of controlling the facility's systems during the attack and jump had taken its toll. The hybrid being lay still, their chest rising and falling in a slow, steady rhythm. "The stabilization procedure was successful," Dr. Krell said, his antennae drooping with exhaustion. "But it's only temporary. We need a more permanent solution." Dr. Reeves ran her hand through her hair, her mind racing. What if we could use the facility's medical technology to create nanobots? They could potentially stabilize the hybrid form at a cellular level. Dr. Krell's antennae perked up. "Brilliant, but we'd need resources from both human and Andorian medical databases." "Then that's what we'll do," Steele said, entering the medical bay. "Whatever it takes, they saved us all today." As repair efforts began across the facility, an unexpected discovery added another layer of complexity to their situation. A junior engineer, half human and half Andorian, noticed something strange in one of the damaged sections. "Captain, Lieutenant," she called out, her voice filled with awe. "You need to see this." Steele and Czar made their way to her location, where they found her standing in front of what appeared to be a shimmering curtain of energy. "What are we looking at?" Czar asked, his antennae twitching curiously. The engineer gestured to her readings. "It's a time discrepancy. This section of the facility is experiencing time at an accelerated rate. Hours here are passing like minutes for us." Steele's eyes widened as he grasped the implications. "Are there more areas like this?" The engineer nodded. "We've identified several pockets throughout the facility. It seems to be a side effect of the FTL jump." As they discussed this new development, Dr. Reeves approached, her face a mixture of excitement and concern. "This could be the key to saving Ralph Luna. If we can use these time-accelerated areas to speed up our nanobot development..." Czar finished her thought. "We might be able to create a solution before the temporary stabilization wears off." Steele nodded, his mind already racing with the possibilities and challenges this presented. "All right, let's get to work. We've got a facility to repair, a hybrid being to save and a peace to forge. And who knows how much time we really have to do it all. As the displaced inhabitants of the facility began to adapt to their new reality, the ripple effects of their disappearance spread across human and Andorian space. In the void left by their absence, the seeds of change began to take root, their ultimate harvest yet to be determined. The facility's inhabitants quickly settled into their new reality, the initial shock of their sudden relocation giving way to a focused determination to survive and thrive in their extraordinary circumstances. As repair efforts continued across the structure, the time-accelerated pockets discovered earlier became both a blessing and a curse. Dr. Reeves and Dr. Krell, working tirelessly in one of the facility's advanced laboratories, made significant progress on their nanobot research. The accelerated time zones allowed them to conduct months' worth of experiments in a matter of hours. "We've done it!" Dr. Reeves exclaimed, her eyes wide with excitement as she examined the latest batch of nanobots under a microscope. These prototypes show remarkable stability in simulated hybrid cellular environments. Dr. Krell's antenna twitched with cautious optimism. "Indeed, but we must be careful. The time distortions could have unforeseen effects on our work." His words proved prophetic. As they prepared to test the nanobots on a sample of Ralph Luna's tissue, alarms blared from their monitoring equipment. The nanobots, exposed to the accelerated time field, were rapidly breaking down. "No!" Dr. Reeves cried out, frantically adjusting controls to salvage their work. "They're aging too quickly. We're losing them." In the command center, Captain Steele and Lieutenant Czar faced their own challenges. Reports of malfunctioning equipment and disoriented personnel flooded in from across the facility. "We need to map these time distortions," Steele said, his brow furrowed as he studied a holographic display of the facility. "It's the only way we can ensure safe movement and communication." Czar nodded, his antennae drooping slightly with fatigue. "Agreed. I suggest we form mixed teams of humans and Andorians. Our combined expertise may be crucial in understanding these phenomena." As they organized the mapping efforts, a junior technician burst into the room, his face pale. "Sirs, you need to see this. It's Ralph Luna." In the medical bay, the hybrid being lay motionless on a bed, surrounded by an array of monitoring equipment. But something was different. Pulses of energy rippled across their skin, each wave sending a surge through the facility's systems. Dr. Reeves rushed to check the readings. These energy fluctuations, they're interacting with the facility's technology somehow. As if in response to her words, a nearby console lit up, its screen filled with schematics of unfamiliar machinery. Dr. Krell leaned in, his antenna quivering with excitement. "This is incredible," he breathed. "It appears to be some kind of advanced terraforming technology, capable of altering planetary environments to suit both our species." The revelation sent shockwaves through the facility. As news spread, heated debates erupted among the inhabitants. In the mess hall, a human diplomat smacked his fist on a table. "This is exactly what we need," he exclaimed. "A way to create a shared world, a true home for both our peoples." An Andorian scientist shook her head vehemently. "And what's to stop either side from using it as a weapon? We could lose everything we've worked for." As tensions rose, a team of engineers made another startling discovery. While repairing a damaged section of the facility, they uncovered a hidden data core. "Captain, you're going to want to see this," one of the engineers called over the comm system. "We've found detailed plans for a series of diplomatic outposts. They were part of the original integration project." Steele and Czar exchanged glances, a spark of hope igniting between them. "This could be exactly what we need," Steele said, "a tangible goal to unite our people." Together they began to formulate a plan to transform the facility into a prototype for these outposts. As mixed teams of humans and Andorians worked side by side to adapt the structure's systems, a sense of shared purpose began to take hold. Meanwhile, in the medical bay, Dr. Reeves made a startling observation. "Dr. Krell, look at this," she called out, gesturing to a series of cellular scans. "Ralph Luna's structure. It's stabilizing." Dr. Krell hurried over, his eyes widening as he studied the data. "Fascinating. It appears the hybrid is adapting to the time distortions, using them to maintain cellular integrity." As they discussed the implications of this development, Ralph Luna's form suddenly tensed. Energy crackled around them, and for a brief moment, the time distortions throughout the facility seemed to sync, creating a moment of perfect temporal alignment. "Did you see that?" Dr. Reeves gasped. "They're not just adapting to the distortions, they're controlling them." The scientists quickly formulated a theory. If they could awaken Ralph Luna and harness their emerging temporal abilities, they might be able to navigate and control the time-accelerated areas within the facility. As they prepared for this risky procedure, the facility's long-range sensors picked up multiple approaching ships. The vessels, a mix of human and Andorian designs, appeared to be part of a joint search and rescue operation. In the command center, Steele and Czar faced a crucial decision. "We need to make contact," Steele said, his voice firm. "Show them what we've accomplished here." Czar nodded in agreement. "But we must be careful. Without control over the time distortions, we risk presenting a chaotic, unstable front." Their plan hinged on the awakening of Ralph Luna. As Dr. Reeves and Dr. Krell made final preparations for the procedure, the entire facility held its breath. The success or failure of their efforts would determine not just their fate, but potentially the future of human-Andorian relations throughout the galaxy. In the medical bay, surrounded by a team of both human and Andorian medical staff, Dr. Reeves took a deep breath and initiated the awakening sequence. Energy surged through Ralph Luna's form, and for a moment, time itself seemed to stand still. Still. In the next instant, Ralph Luna's eyes fluttered open, glowing with an otherworldly light. A wave of temporal energy surged through the facility, radiating outward from the hybrid's form. The time-accelerated pockets that had been causing chaos throughout the structure began to stabilize, aligning with normal space-time. Dr. Reeves gasped as she watched the readings on her equipment normalize. "It's working," she exclaimed, her voice filled with a mixture of relief and awe. "The time distortions are syncing up." Dr. Krell's antenna twitched excitedly as he monitored Ralph Luna's vital signs. "Remarkable. Their temporal abilities are far more potent than we anticipated." As Ralph Luna regained full consciousness, their face contorted with confusion and concentration. The hybrid being's eyes darted around the room, taking in information at an impossible rate. I can see." Ralph Luna's voice was strained, barely above a whisper. "So many possibilities, so many futures." Captain Steele and Lieutenant Czar rushed into the medical bay, alerted by the sudden stabilization of the facility's systems. "What's happening?" Steele demanded, his eyes fixed on the glowing form of Ralph Luna. Before anyone could answer, Ralph Luna's gaze snapped to the captain. "The fleet! They're coming! We have to show them what we've accomplished." Czar's antennae perked up. "The joint human-Andorian search and rescue fleet? They found us?" Ralph Luna nodded, their form flickering between human and Andorian appearances. "We have a chance to change everything." Steele and Czar exchanged glances, a silent understanding passing between them. "The communication array," Steele said. "If we can broadcast a message—" "Not just a message," Ralph Luna interrupted, their voice growing stronger. "I can show them the future, what we can become." Dr. Reeves stepped forward, concern etched on her face. "Are you sure? The strain on your system could be—" "We have to try," Ralph Luna insisted, struggling to sit up. "It's our only chance." Within minutes, a plan was formulated. The facility's advanced communication array was quickly reconfigured, with Ralph Luna at its center. As the hybrid being channeled their temporal energy into the systems, Steele and Czar crafted a message of peace and cooperation. The broadcast began just as the first ships of the joint fleet entered the star system. Ralph Luna's eyes glowed brighter, and streams of temporal energy flowed from their body into the facility's systems. Aboard the lead ships of the approaching fleet, captains and crew members suddenly found themselves assaulted by vivid visions. They saw glimpses of a future where humans and Andorians worked side by side, building great cities and exploring the stars together. The images were so real, so tangible, that many gasped in awe. In the facility's command center, Steele watched the incoming sensor data with anxious anticipation. "They're slowing down," he announced, a hint of hope in his voice. Czar nodded, his antennae twitching with anticipation. The lead vessels are hailing us. As the communication channel opened, Ralph Luna's body began to flicker more violently. The strain of projecting temporal visions was taking its toll. Dr. Reeves and Dr. Krell rushed to stabilize the hybrid being, their hands flying over medical equipment. "We need to find a permanent solution," Dr. Krell said urgently. "Their merge form is becoming unstable." While the medical team worked frantically to keep Ralph Luna's condition from deteriorating further, Steele and Czar engaged in tense negotiations with the fleet's commanders. They presented their plan to transform the facility into a prototype diplomatic outpost, sharing the discovered plans for joint habitats and the potential of the advanced terraforming technology. Hours passed as discussions continued. The strain on Ralph Luna grew, their forms shifting more rapidly between human and Andorian appearances. Yet they insisted on maintaining the temporal link, providing crucial insights that swayed the negotiations in favor of peace. Finally, a breakthrough was reached. The fleet commanders agreed to send a small delegation to the facility to assess the situation firsthand. As preparations for their arrival began, a sense of cautious optimism spread through the facility. Amidst the flurry of activity, Ralph Luna suddenly convulsed, their eyes wide with terror. "Danger!" they gasped, gripping Dr. Reeves's arm. "I see a threat. Extremists. They want to destroy everything we've built." Steele leaned in, his face grim. "Can you tell us more? Who are they? When will they strike?" Ralph Luna shook their head, frustration clear on their features. "It's unclear. The future? It's in flux. But they're coming. We have to be ready." As the delegation's shuttle approached the facility, tension mounted. The inhabitants worked tirelessly to showcase their progress in human-Andorian cooperation, while also discreetly increasing security measures. Ralph Luna, their condition growing more unstable by the minute, insisted on being present for the delegation's arrival. As the shuttle docked, the hybrid being's eyes flashed with another vision. "They're here," Ralph Luna whispered, their voice filled with equal parts hope and dread. "The future of both our species. It all hinges on what happens next." The facility's main airlock cycled open, revealing the first members of the joint human-Andorian delegation. As they stepped into the hallway, every eye turned to Ralph Luna, waiting to see if their unique abilities would reveal the hidden threat that could unravel everything they had fought so hard to achieve. As the airlock doors slid open, a surge of temporal energy rippled through Ralph Luna's unstable form, causing them to clutch their head and stumble backward. In that instant, past, present, and future merged in their mind, revealing a vivid vision of the impending threat. Captain Steele rushed to steady Ralph Luna, concern etched on his face. As their eyes met, the hybrid's consciousness connected with Steele's, projecting the urgent warning directly into his mind. Steele's eyes widened, and he quickly turned to Lieutenant Czar, speaking in a low, urgent tone. "We have a situation," he murmured, careful to keep his voice down as the first delegates began to emerge from the airlock. "Ralph Luna's seen something. There's a threat among the delegation." Czar's antennae twitched, processing the information rapidly. "Understood. We'll need to implement heightened security measures immediately, but discreetly. We can't afford to alarm our guests or tip off the potential saboteurs." As the two leaders moved to greet the arriving officials, they seamlessly began to execute their impromptu security plan. Steele tapped a concealed communicator on his wrist, sending coded instructions to the facility's security team. Czar, meanwhile, adjusted the environmental controls, activating additional sensors under the guise of optimizing comfort for their Andorian visitors. The delegation, a mix of high-ranking human and Andorian officials, stepped into the facility's main corridor. Their faces betrayed a combination of curiosity and wariness as they took in their surroundings. At the forefront stood Admiral Therax, a stern-faced Andorian with piercing blue eyes, and Ambassador Evelyn Chen, a human diplomat known for her shrewd negotiation skills. "Welcome to our facility," Steele greeted them, his voice warm despite the tension coiled in his muscles. "We're honored by your presence and eager to show you what we've accomplished here." As the tour began, Dr. Reeves and Dr. Krell remained behind with Ralph Luna, whose condition was rapidly deteriorating. The hybrid's form flickered between human and Andorian appearances with increasing frequency, each shift accompanied by a pulse of temporal energy that made the nearby medical equipment spark and sputter. "We need to stabilize them, and fast," Dr. Reeves said, her fingers flying over a console as she analyzed Ralph Luna's readings. "Their temporal field is becoming more erratic. If we don't find a solution soon, we could lose them entirely." Dr. Krell's antenna quivered as he considered their options. Perhaps we could use the experimental nanobots we've been developing. If we combine them with a carefully modulated temporal energy field, we might be able to create a stable matrix for Ralph Luna's hybrid form. As the two scientists worked feverishly to implement their plan, Captain Steele and Lieutenant Czar led the delegation through the facility. They showcased the collaborative efforts between humans and Andorians, from joint research projects to the advanced life support systems that accommodated both species' needs. However, as they moved through the various sections, Steele and Czar remained hyper-vigilant. They noticed subtle inconsistencies in the behavior of certain delegation members. A lingering glance at a control panel here, a hand straying too close to a concealed pocket there. Using the enhanced sensors Czar had activated, they began to gather data on the suspicious individuals. As they approached the central command hub, where they planned to present the plans for the diplomatic outpost, Steele received a silent alert on his communicator. The facility's systems had detected hidden weapons and explosive devices carried by a small group within the delegation. Just as Steele was about to signal Czar, Ralph Luna burst into the command hub, their form now stable but radiating an otherworldly energy. Dr. Reeves and Dr. Krell followed close behind, looks of triumph and concern warring on their faces. "We've done it," Dr. Reeves announced breathlessly. "We've stabilized Ralph Luna's form using a combination of nanobots and temporal energy, but we're not sure how long it will last." Before anyone could respond, the group of extremists made their move. They pulled out their concealed weapons, aiming them at the facility's main control console. "Nobody move!" shouted one of the extremists, an Andorian with a jagged scar across his face. "We're taking control of this facility and its technology. The so-called peace between our peoples ends here." Chaos erupted as the genuine delegates recoiled in shock, and the facility's security team rushed to respond. But in that critical moment, Ralph Luna stepped forward, their eyes glowing with temporal energy. "No," they said, their voice resonating with power. "This is not the future we will allow." With a gesture, Ralph Luna created a localized temporal field around the extremists. The air shimmered, and the attackers' movements slowed to a crawl, their expressions frozen in massive hatred and dedication. Seizing the opportunity, Steele barked orders to the security team. "Disarm and restrain them! Quickly, before the field collapses!" As the security forces moved in, neutralizing the threat without bloodshed, the genuine delegates watched in awe. Admiral Therax turned to Ambassador Chen, his antennae twitching with a mix of shock and admiration. "It seems," he said slowly, "that we have greatly underestimated the potential of this facility and its inhabitants." Ambassador Chen nodded, her eyes fixed on Ralph Luna. "Indeed, perhaps it's time we reconsider our approach to this unique situation." As the last of the extremists was secured, Ralph Luna's temporal field dissipated. They swayed on their feet, the effort of maintaining the field clearly having taken its toll. Dr. Reeves rushed to their side, scanner in hand. "Remarkable," she murmured, studying the readings. "The use of their abilities seems to have further stabilized their hybrid form. It's as if they've found a balance between their human and Andorian aspects." Captain Steele stepped forward, addressing the shaken but impressed delegation. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you've witnessed here today is just a glimpse of what we can achieve together. We've faced our differences and our fears, and we've emerged stronger for it. Now let us show you our vision for the future. A future where humans and Andorians stand side by side as allies and friends." As Steele began to present the plans for the diplomatic outpost, a new energy filled the room. The delegates, their preconceptions shattered by the day's events, listened with open minds and growing enthusiasm. The advanced terraforming technology, once a source of fear and suspicion, was now seen in a new light. a tool for creating a shared world where both species could thrive. Ralph Luna, still recovering from their exertion, watched the proceedings with a sense of pride and hope. They had seen countless possible futures, but now, for the first time, they felt certain that they were on the path to the brightest one. As the presentation concluded and discussions began in earnest, Ralph Luna turned their gaze to the facility's viewports. Beyond the reinforced glass, the stars shimmered against the velvet backdrop of space. Somewhere out there, a new world waited to be born, a world that would be home to both humans and Andorians, a living symbol of what they could accomplish together. The hybrid beings smiled, their form now a perfect blend of both species. The future was unwritten, but with every passing moment, it grew brighter. As they turned back to join the discussions, Ralph Luna knew that this was just the beginning of an incredible journey, one that would reshape the galaxy and redefine what it meant to be human, Andorian, or something gloriously in between.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.